Hi everybody, second installment for March 2nd. Impressed? Yes, today today we have a special guest, an interview with Ken Peters. He's the narrator of the Mystery Decoder YouTube channel who's been doing some excellent work lately, and we are happy to have you, Ken.
Yeah, great. Happy to be here.
Yeah. So Ken, thanks. First of all, thanks for being on the show, and I wanted to start out with just a few real, quick questions. I mean, kind of the high level stuff. What motivated you and your team to start the Mystery Decoder channel on YouTube?
Yeah, question. Well, Sherry, our producer and scriptwriter, she's a big YouTube fan, and especially for the unknown, the untold, and some unbelievable types of topics. She's a CPA, and so, the kind of people maybe that she's normally with, she's, not very often she can find someone in her field that cares about these topics. So, and she has some very unique views on many subjects. And, I mean, she seems to see things differently. Like, for instance, a crop circle may just look like a crop circle to most people, but she sees it and she just sees things that others don't, and she can write an interesting 10-minute story with, what she sees. And she's very similar with people also. She can just see things in people. Believe it or not, I'm actually her insurance broker, and she, told me one day that she thought that I have a really good voice, and so she wanted to, me to consider her hiring me as her narrator, singer, and spokesperson. And it's kind of interesting because she had never even heard me sing, and I honestly didn't really realize what was there, but she has a way to kind of bring that out, and so she went on to say that she likes to watch YouTube, but she felt like that most of the videos are a little too technical and lack a good presentation quality. So and very few have narration. So now, now we're making videos on topics that we enjoy. We get to chat through, with comments from people who share the same interests. So we're finally doing something that we really love. And, of course, this gives an opportunity to meet people like you, people who, we feel, you define the true meaning of this information age.
Yeah, I think it's a community of people, really, and one of the things that I like about what's happening right now, and actually I think Sherry and I started about the same time, or she started just slightly after I did, in terms of covering the subject matter, and I think that we're growing fast because we collaborate. I think there's a lot of humility in the space right now among the people that are producing stuff. We share, and I think this interview is a great example of that. So what would you consider, this is one I get from a lot of folks, but what would you consider to be the highest impact discovery that you and your team might have made, and maybe two, or just give us a couple samples.
Yeah, sure. Well, even though our crop circle videos are not our, shall we say, our top box office hit, we kind of feel like that we're the first channel to find evidence of, in the crop circles of every major disaster in the last 20 years. And, if you agree that there are special messages in crop circles, you can't ignore the warnings in some of the recent crop circles. And, we kind of feel like that in the long run, this will be the area, this will be the ones that will have the biggest impact.
Mm-hmm.
For now, though, we do feel like the NASA conspiracy videos have had the most impact. From the first video that we did on 2/7/16 till the latest one releases 2/25/16, and we're surprised at how most have failed to notice these earlier, because NASA really, they don't try that hard to cover their tracks, and although maybe soon we may have some sort of a simple NASA explanation with regards to the image editing, the swapped images, with what we showed you. I think it will be hard for us to accept NASA 100%.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to get much disagreement, Ken, with our audience here. I think we're all pretty skeptical of NASA because we've seen enough. I mean, we've seen many images ourselves where where we'll pull up an image one day and then it will be a different image the next day, and it's confusing. And now folks like you are documenting these discrepancies, and you're helping a lot of folks, quite frankly, Ken, know that they're not crazy. Yeah, you're helping a lot of folks with this stuff because they think they saw it, they know they saw it, and now they can be assured that somebody's taken some deductive logic to it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think again with Sherry, she's even for people that feel like that crop circles are a bunch of malarkey. If you really just listen to her analysis, it's quite good. It's quite logical.
Yeah, yeah. So what do you guys? Everybody has a spiritual angle to this. Now, if you've watched my videos, I'm a very, I would consider myself to be a Christian. I'm a barbarian outlaw Christian. I get rejected by most churches, but I am a Christian. And I know that you all also, ask the big questions spiritually and stuff. But what would you think the biggest questions we should be asking ourselves right now?
Yeah, we kind of feel like that as a a relatively new member on YouTube. We're actually, one comment is we're kind of surprised with how mean and negative, some of the comments are, and we think we're sharing information and our views, but we hear all kinds of name calling, and like if you talk about doomsday, you're either an idiot or a devil worshiper. Yeah. But if you don't, but then we feel like, well, if you don't believe this, then why do you do searches and watch our videos? So we think that no doubt there's trouble in the world, and we can say without quoting the Bible or sun images or crop circles, but we believe there's still hope if we stop going down this destructive path. But if the doomsday asteroids do come next year, hey, don't say we didn't warn you.
Yeah, I have to say that all the time too, and I'm not laughing. Again, a lot of the times when I laugh, it's a nervous reaction to the to the enormity of the story, and it can come across as me making fun. I'm really not. It's just a reaction I have. It just overwhelms me a little bit. The other thing about your negative comments, we found the same thing on the WSO channel. It almost seems like there's people that have been assigned to do nothing but harass my subscribers. It really overwhelmed me, the negativity. I was not prepared for that either, Ken.
Yeah, I just think that, unfortunately, there's a lot of people that, you kind of feel like saying, well, okay, well, if you think ours is, whatever, we look forward to seeing your videos,
Right.
And it's like, they don't have anything better to do than, sit around and just watch other people's work and, kind of attack. But, like I've told Sherry on countless occasions, say, you know what, hey, that's not going to deter us. We have our mission, and we're just going to plow forward, and, you just disregard those people. They're in every sector. They
are. And let me make one final point on that, and then we'll move on to the next question. But the point I made in my last video, and I'll make it again here with Ken, is that my policy is not to respond to the trolls except for on a very limited basis. Like when I invite them to debate me or something, which they can't do because their handlers can't, control them during a live debate. So they'll never debate you. But one of the things that, is very important, that we do not negatively lash out at anyone. If you want to compare this movement to anything, compare it to Martin Luther King, because we have to stay nonviolent, we have to stay passive, we have to stay peaceful. And if we do that, one, YouTube can't block our videos, and number two, people will be more receptive to the truth.
So we always try to be, we don't, shall we say, join them in the low path. We take the high road, and we just, if we do respond, it's professional, and we just kind of keep it at that level.
I think that's a great policy, Ken. So do you have any kind of reasoning, scientific-based estimate where we might see some of the bodies or the main event appear in the solar system from Earth, like from ground-based viewing?
Sure. Well, we feel like that we're not scientists, or theories most likely are based on information that you already know, or you can find on the web pretty easily. However, our team, we haven't had some very convincing decoding going back to 4/28/15, the Holden crop circle, which it does point to a troublesome period, approximately May 17th or so to June 14th this year. And it's also possible that we may see something in the sky as early as 3/23/16, which, boy, that's close, since it's the next lunar eclipse. And a lot of people are very concerned about the asteroid TX-68. And Russia just announced its plan to modify its nuclear missiles to fight asteroids in space. So we feel like, hey, maybe they know more than NASA.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I reported on that in an earlier video when Russia announced it, and little known to the American public that NASA also announced, or it was actually not, it was one of the nuclear agencies of the United States is teaming up with NASA to do the very same thing. And they have to have nuclear approval in order to use nukes in space, I'm sure, or something like that, right? So I think they're going to start blasting asteroids. Is what they're going to do. That's one thing that I think we're going to see, actually, in our lifetime. Who do you find the most compelling voice out there right now in the matters of conspiracy and cover-up? Because I think this is broader than just Nabru, or it's broader than Nemesis or Wormwood or anything like that. So what do you think?
Yeah, for that we have to say that the internet has given people like us the voice that we never had, and if you can prove your case, you have a voice, and we certainly want to thank you for the great work that you've done, and you certainly have inspired us. Oh
man, that's very that's very touching. But you guys, I think we inspire each other, and you gave me confidence. There was a shill that was really on me about my analysis of the same photography that you saw from the imagery from Core 2, where we saw that large body moving from right to left. You remember that image, Ken?
Yes, it's very, very, very interesting, to say the least.
Right, and then I had a shill and a couple of very well-known personalities in the space actually, rebuke me and tell me it was Mercury, and I said, "There's no way it could be Mercury."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
exactly.
So then when you had that follow-up video, it gave me a lot of fuel to say, you guys, really, please listen to me. I'm not alone on this. I'm not the only one that thinks this way.
Yeah.
So how do you think your channel is going to go forward in the next 5 years, Ken? And I say 5 years because I believe we will. I believe it will be a disaster, but I don't believe it will be the end of the world. But please, go ahead and answer.
Right, sure. Yeah, we hope that we can continue our current path, and, but it's nice, we really hope that we get some more encouragement and feedback from viewers, and we'll push forward, and we're confident that we can decode more mysteries.
Amen.
And want to mention, we also actually have three other channels. We have an Incarnated Angels, which focuses on spiritual matters, and we have a Learner to, as in the number 2,
mm-hmm.
Learner to Leader. Is our channel dedicated to help others. And so, if you'd like to learn more, too, about how to make the kind of videos that we do, you can check out some of the tutorials there. That's on the Learner to Leader.
Yep, and I'll have those links in the video, so if anybody wants to take advantage of Ken's recommendation, just click on the link and it will take you to those sites. Sure. So I like to keep my videos relatively short. I think that's the way to go, and I think we shared a lot of meat, and I'm really encouraging my subscribers to come and look at your information regularly, subscribe, and so forth. But do you guys have any questions for me? I mean, we're all trying to learn here, right? I mean, is there anything I can share or insight I can help you guys with?
Yeah, we're wondering your opinion, what you feel like will happen with the rest of 2016 here, and we're also wondering, have you built a bunker?
That's yeah, okay, so again, laughing out of hysteria, not out of humor.
Right.
A little bit of humor, but okay, so what's going to happen in 2016? So I had a guest on last night, Ken, David Mead, who's an author that's convinced it's going to this thing is all going to go down in 2017. I hear Terrell Blackstar, who I consider to be a credible voice in the space, also saying 2017. And then you have other Christian people like Gil Brazard, who says if it's not this year, it's next year. So the first thing I would say is that we're in the window of time where the effects and everything should be very evident to us, and we should be seeing things, which we are, by the way. I have lots of documentation of that. So in 2016, I think it's going to be all about distraction. I think there's going to be a major economic collapse. That's going to be basically a trigger pulled in order to distract us from what's in the skies. Number two, I think that there's going to be, just like the Bible writers alluded to, that there's going to be wars and rumors of wars. But when you look and see what's happening in Syria right now, I believe that a lot of nation states are going to grab land prior to the event so that they can take and hold those pieces of land after the event is over with. So I think there's some geopolitics going on right now in terms of dealing away the earth. That's pretty cynical, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I do also want to say, when I say that there are dark forces that I think are pulling a lot of strings, and I do think that we'll probably see some type of an asteroid or some type of a collision in 2016. And then I always tell everybody the whole thing could break loose any second based on the data that we're seeing. So I'm not a date center. I know you guys try to stay away from dates and just try to say, hey, generally this looks like a bad period of time. Maybe we should think, well, that's the way I approach it. But it's that I do think there's going to be a lot of governmental obfuscation, a lot of distraction going on, anything to keep us from looking up. And then, did I build a bunker? Well, that's a funny story because I ended up on this old farm, and it was in the United States, and it's this not bunker, but it's this beautiful dairy farm, and they built this barn that was clearly built with the highest quality standards back in the day, probably 1906 or something. And they built a huge concrete building in the corner, almost buried halfway up in the earth. And that is where I'm going to make my last stand if it gets bad here. And so we do have like a concrete type bunker. It's funny you should ask, but I didn't build it. It was already there.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Are you?
No, please go ahead.
Well, we wanted to add one little tidbit, and this, of course, is kind of optional, but we did want to make a comment in that a lot of people picked on my Nassau pronunciation, and I do admit that I call it slightly different than most people. Although I think in the recent video or two I've referred to it more as NASA because of people actually posting comments saying, well, what's the deal? What's with the Nassau? But it's because we kind of have a little bit of a different feeling, for the name, NASA. I think that NASA stands for neither accurate nor straight. And as the information would get so often twisted, so I thought one day in terms of like, okay, well, what they think they've seen as in past tense saw, so what NASA saw, so NASA.
Makes sense to me, Ken. Tell Sherry hello. Tell Sherry hello for us. Tell the team over at Mystery Decoder hello for us, and we would love to have you or another member of your team on soon.
Sure. Yeah, sounds great. Thanks a lot.
Take care, Ken.